you have lots of money, what's like blowing 500K on attention? Like it's basically fun at this point, from the information that I have.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, there's been so much evidence now that he's not Satoshi. I mean, I'd have believed it early on, and then you could go two ways with that when you get new information. A lot of people just double down and have cognitive dissonance and say, no, I couldn't have been fooled. So they make excuses, or they're so busy protecting somebody that they kind of believe their own narrative. So, but for him to 100% believe it, I mean, I've never met him, but he certainly doesn't strike me as somebody who's naive. I mean, he seems kind of, pretty tough guy that would be harder to fool. I don't know.
Maybe Lucas, do you want to do a little like reset the room?
Yeah. So we're now discussing Calvin and Craig, but that's not the subject of the room. Of course, we devs need support defending from them also, but the main topic of this room is how can we support devs on getting funding, on getting support on their life costs in a way, the most decentralized way we can, but also we need to see what are the incentives for companies and individuals to contribute to it. So that's the topic of the room.
So we have Jimmy who just joined. Do you want to say something, Jimmy?
Well, I saw the names in the room, so I was quite curious. Good to see you again, Elijah, or at least hear from you. Kim.com, good to see you. And of course, Bruce and Brad, I'm very familiar with you guys. And Gleb, good to see you on this platform, and Rockstar Dev, you too. And of course, Adam Jonas, who I know. And it's an interesting, I don't know what you guys are talking about, but whatever it is, it's,
Jimmy,
I'm interested.
Why don't you tell us what's going on with your efforts? Because you were doing a really great, awesome job of like 2018, I think it was, of your courses training developers. Are you planning on doing that again? Like, what would you need to happen for that initiative to start?
Well, I mean, generally, I program those, or I organize those around conferences, and they've more or less been completely missing for the last year or so. Kind of hard to do that when there aren't really like natural gathering places. I have done them online. I don't like it as much, and I don't think the students get quite as much. Though I've had offers to do it and all that, but I don't know. I just don't think the quality is quite there with the online. Though I've done it, and I'm sure the people that have taken it say that they got a good experience out of it. I just think in-person teaching just gets that, just that little bit more. But yeah, I mean, just given the rules around various, jurisdictions about like how close you can even get to a person and things like that, until that sort of stuff lifts, I don't think I'd be doing anything.
Yeah, that's actually Jimmy, that conferences are actually a really good way to support developers. That like getting people to workshops, even for smaller workshops. Last year in February, I had a small workshop, and a number of people who are in this room, like John, gave like a couple $1,000s to help make that workshop happen. Super impactful for development effort to get people, in the same space and able to flesh out details on some complicated stuff. Post-COVID, hopefully that's something that can, reemerge as a bit of flexible funding for having events.
Yeah, and obviously there's been a lot of people in the industry that have supported by like creating scholarships and stuff, including Brad, right? Brad's done, contributed, and I've trained some developers that have gone on to do, some very interesting things on Bitcoin, and I'm very proud of that. I'm proud of them, and hopefully it's a win for everybody. But it does take a lot of, it requires people to come together, I think, at conferences and stuff like that. Right now, that's not so much. I think the last core dev meeting was, I don't know, a couple of years ago or something like that. So I'd like to see more conferences happen. I'd like to see more collaboration happen, but Zoom only takes you so far, and you need a little bit more than that, I think, for real cooperation.
Jimmy, I don't know how many students you already teach in these courses, but I know some Brazilians that got into your course when you were here. Actually, I was the one that interviewed you in the shopping mall. And
that's right. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I saw that I think none of the students that got through your course are actually contributing to Bitcoin right now. So one of the questions I have for you is, what are people looking for when they go to your course? Are they like looking for doing blockchain stuff, or are they looking for Bitcoin contribution itself? And what are the difficulties they have? I don't know if you have contact with them after the course, if they are having difficulties on getting funding, if they are, I don't know, what is the barrier for them to really contribute to Bitcoin after?
Yeah, I mean, it's the people that take my course are very varied. I've taught over 600 people, and they come from all walks of life. I've taught someone as young as 14 and as old as like in their 80s. Some of them are VCs, others are project managers, others are college students. Like it just varies, right? I've had accountants take my course, because they wanted to know all of the technical details so they can give better tax advice, stuff like that. So it's hard to like give like a one size fits all kind of thing. But there are, some that want to, take the course as like a way to, as a stepping stone to contributing to core. I wouldn't necessarily say that's the main motivation for most of the people that take it. They're interested in it and they want to explore career opportunities in the space. There've been people that have taken it that, like from like a Bitcoin Twitter politics point of view, maybe I don't align them with exactly, but that's okay. Like they still learn a lot on the course, and go do whatever it is that they do. So the motivations are very different. I would say like out of that Portuguese, the Sao Paulo one I did, I know Breno is pretty involved in a lot of translation work. He wants to make sure that a lot of the documentation and stuff like that is available in Portuguese. So, and he happens to have that skill, and he's taking my course, so he can do a lot of that. He translated the Little Bitcoin book, for example, into Portuguese, and he's done a bunch of other things around that. But yeah, I mean, it like people, it's not necessarily like core contributors, although, I've had plenty of students go on to like the chain code residency and then like contribute to core and things like that. I've had a lot of students that have contributed to core, but that's not necessarily the reason they take it. It's the motivations vary quite a bit.
And I think I just to echo what Jimmy's saying. I mean, education is a tool, and it's sort of up to you to figure out what to do with it. And so Jimmy's course is great, but it doesn't get you maybe to contribute to core if that's what your goal is.
Oh no, of course. I just wanted to know from those who have that goal, what are the main difficulties they have, and maybe some stuff that we can discuss how to help.
Yeah, speaking of this, I'm actually, like, Jimmy helped launch the Advancing Bitcoin conference in London that I helped last February. And what we saw is it's a dev conference, right? It's very technical, and it's mostly technical people coming. And what we've seen is a very large majority of people were just normal devs, not necessarily interested in becoming like full-time core developers, but just interested in understanding how the thing works, and maybe potentially do like an app or something. So I think there's we've had like a very strong focus on like core devs, but probably like most people wouldn't go in this route.
Right.
So I brought Shiv upstage. He's trying to become a Bitcoin core contributor right now. So maybe he can just share his perspectives as somebody who's there right now.
Thanks, Jeremy. Yeah, I actually just kind of embarked on this journey a few days ago, so I'm very new to the space. Jeremy actually linked me to one of his talks from SF BitDevs, and that was a pretty good start. I'm currently just digging into the C++ textbook by the creator, Bjorn Storstrup. I think a cool resource would be something that just people like me who can form a community and kind of learn from each other or ask each other silly questions, because I know that a lot of you guys are probably really busy and working on more difficult problems. So it's not really always easy for you guys to answer beginner questions. So maybe like if we can get a learning community going, like a Bitcoin core dev, like IRC channel, but just for people who are kind of onboarding.
They have the review club, no? That's sort of like at least like a stepping stone, and that's like a community, and you know you could talk to a lot of people during the review and things like that. You know, it's kind of like ClubHouse before ClubHouse existed, and that like I think they talk and stuff, and you know, like they look at a big pull request and then, you know, discuss like all of the parts to it and things like that. So you have that. You also have Stack Exchange, which is like Peter Woolley is actually pretty like active on there sometimes, and he'll answer, you know, a lot of questions, and depending on your level of question, you know, other people might pick it off before he gets to it and things like that.
Yeah, if I may jump into this topic, because like building developer teams is kind of my specialty, and I've done that for BTC Pay Server by building, like adding people around Nicholas. So, and it's been wildly successful, and I'm kind of doing that, not kind of, but like I'm doing that now for Strike as a startup. I really found that like what Jimmy's saying about like, yes, you educate developer, but then the next step is even harder, which is like developer building connections on his own or her own. And that's where I think like teams of 4 are really good. And what I was talking about, apprenticeship, because like I expect the Shiv will have success as long as Jeremy has time to facilitate him. And that's where like teams of 4 are really good, where you have somebody who is capable and you can build around him. Then you have one of those people from team of 4 graduate, and then he can like kind of teach 3 more people, which is what happened on BTC Pay Server. Now BTC Pay Server team is kind of like all of us are taking onto ourselves to go into different direction, like bring in more people, and that's how you get healthy community, healthy growth. And I would honestly love to see more of that in Bitcoin Core, because there is PR review club, but it's like 10 people, or it's more than 4 people, and developers do need nurturing when they're starting, especially on a project as demanding as Bitcoin Core. So I would like to see more of that.
And I think that's part of what feels hard to me about like being in a, you know, maybe like mentoring or guiding role for Shiv is like, I can't even get a lot of my own PRs merged. Yeah. So like, I can't, you know, like, I mean, I think for like more basic things that are like more introductory, like it's probably easier to have something that's like requires light amounts of review to go in, like, you know, maybe some sort of basic refactorings or things like that. But if I understand Shiv's like career background, like, you know, you're a senior software engineer of some sort, and like probably are looking to tackle like more, you know, difficult challenges. And that's just like a pretty hard road to get people able to contribute on. It takes like, you know, like your first serious contribution might take like an entire year to get, you know, through the pipes.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you're just saying how much we're missing that process when you don't even like have the support of that. You don't have your team of 4 that you're part of. So I get it. Agree 100%. But I'm hoping we can address that.
I also wanted to add that a person doesn't have to be an applied cryptographer to contribute to Bitcoin. I want to mention that there's the GUI fork, which is at bitcoin-core/GUI on GitHub. And so there's other ways to contribute. Obviously, if you're a web developer or a graphic designer, you can also contribute to bitcoin.org. And another thing that some people might not realize is you can also contribute to translation. Like that's also an important, contribution to Bitcoin is, contributing to the translation as, the GUI and stuff evolves.
If I may, just wondering, Kim and Roger, what brought you in here? Just curious.
Well, developers are the key to progress, right? For Bitcoin as well as Bitcoin Cash and other cryptos. So you guys are putting it all together. And, I just saw the headline that you need support, and I'm here to support you as much as I can. If you tell me what you need, I'm happy to put my weight behind it and help you guys.
And for me, just a Sunday evening here, and was working on the computer and wanted something to listen to. So here I am. So thanks, guys, for the entertainment.
Oh, okay. Good to know. But yeah, I think what you guys are saying is right, that there is you need like people that are passionate about what you're doing. I know when I was contributing to Core that having somebody like John Newberry and like review my stuff and I could review his stuff like that made the process so much easier for me. And then I got to know Marco a little bit because he was like doing the merging and stuff. But that whole process could use a little more handholding. And the thing is, you might be a very good coder, but you might not necessarily be a very good, person that like can mentor and review other people's stuff and do all of the other things that are kind of a part of that whole process. You know what I mean? And that's not necessarily like it's actually quite rare to find somebody that knows how to do all of that, and like walking people through teaching that aspect of it, which is which can be tricky, is probably something that I didn't think of as necessarily a barrier, but now that you guys bring it up, it does seem like something that we should try to.
No, it's absolutely a skill. Like I know for myself and interacting with so many developers, and now, as you're saying, now it's obvious, more obvious. Maybe we will address it. But yeah, I actually need to jump off, and because in Strike we need it addressing. But before I go, Jimmy, like I just want update on in the sense of developer funding, like what's happening with Joseph and Ethereum bet. Like,
I mean that guy never finalized the bet, and he's been like that the entire time. I mean there was like he's just wishy-washy kind of coward in my mind. So
yeah, because they're saying what, like 10,000 developers numbers.
Yeah, I mean they're not getting 10,000 users a day. Or I mean the bet was, or it was supposed to be 10,000 daily active users, 100,000 monthly active users on 5 different apps, in 6 months out of 12 over any 12-month period. And I mean he refused to finalize it. So I mean it's been like I think about more than halfway through the bet. But yeah, I mean he's been like that the whole time. But
marketing promo. Yeah, well,
we could talk about it if we meet in person sometime.
Okay, it's a pleasure sharing this room with all of you. Yeah, keep pushing. Bitcoin needs us. Let's go. Talk soon. Bye.
See you, Rockstar.
Yeah, speaking of that, like I think that's the one thing that, looking back, it seems it's like Ethereum is doing a really good job on that front of organizing, marketing, and holding conferences, and like that's where they're executing in a way where centralization clearly shows some benefits. We know with Bitcoin, like we're all about censorship resistance, government resistance, keeping everything decentralized, no central points of failure. And it's great to see that Bitcoin is still winning without having a consensus of Bitcoin. But I wonder, like, maybe we can start a little mini consensus, like just a little one, and then have a little bit more effort on all these things that we're talking about here. Like we could have somebody on staff that's job is to just do like pairing developers together and making sure that they meet their KPIs and
I think
funding,
I think Steve Lee and Mike Schmidt have been doing something like that because their background is as PMs, and they organize like what needs to be reviewed and sort of like shepherding different PRs through the process, at least the big ones. So I mean that's where those sort of things come in, and I think they've done a pretty good job. I think Steve definitely organized the entire Taproot review and everything, and he made sure that any developer that was interested would get on the call, and those had like 100 people listening in, and where they went through every single thing, and it had a ton of review as a result of that. So maybe we need more PMs like that to be a part of the open source stuff. And I think both of those guys continue to do it. They might have some people that they're apprenticing or something like that. But I'd like to see more of that. I'm sure that would. I'm sure Jeremy, for example, would love.
I wanted to mention to Shiv and maybe others that Andrew Chow does a weekly thing on his Twitch channel where he reviews PRs and kind of goes through his workflow, and so that might be interesting to somebody. So I wanted to mention.
Yeah, things are definitely much better, it feels like, in terms of like capital allocation towards open source development of Bitcoin and Lightning Network and things like BTC Pay Server. It's definitely, I feel really good about where we are with all the companies stepping up and these new foundations being started and all the stuff that's getting funded. It definitely makes me feel a lot more hopeful that this is going to not be usurped by companies and stuff like that, that it is going to stay the ethos of Bitcoin. I just wish we had a little bit more centralization, just a little bit.
I don't know. I like the sort of like individual company developers like getting funding from different organizations and stuff. Michael Ford just got funded by the Independent Reserve or something. I hadn't even heard of that company until like the announcement. So I like that. I think that's better. And most of these are grants, and they don't require the developer to promote anything in particular or anything. So to me that's
the main.
I like that too, because we see like Human Rights Foundation, Gladstein was here, and they are helping, contributing, and giving grants for projects related to privacy, because that's important for them. Then we can have in the future maybe, I don't know, an entity in Africa that is sponsoring Bitcoin devs.
Jack already set that up.
Then we can have people from all over the world, companies with a lot of different interests, and it's better than having a centralized entity, one centralized entity deciding what.
Hey, you're blocking your mic.
You're very muffled.
Sorry. My AirPod, I lose my battery, so I'm gonna leave.
I think one of the things that I just want to draw the line on, and I think that this is what Brad is touching on, is like, a little bit more centralization. I think it's okay to have deference in development, to say that like we don't, this kind of Rockstar was talking earlier about how we want, like the most cypherpunk and independent minded, but like, it's actually kind of okay if somebody says, hey, can you just tell me what to work on? And I'll do that. It doesn't mean they have to do it if they disagree with it. But a lot of times, I think developers end up getting pretty lost on what to actually work on, what's going to be picked up by the community, what other people will actually review if they put out code for it. And so I see a lot of like spent energy on people who have these undirected grants, especially for like younger developers who are still trying to find their way on like, what do people actually care about? And I just think that we lose a lot in that process.
Can I ask maybe a question? I'm not advocating, I'm just curious to know, because I haven't been able to follow BTC development as closely as I used to. What is the current community feelings towards like a block size increase or hard forks to do that in the future? Is that still totally off the table, or is that softened? Or I'd love to hear where that's at the moment, if you guys don't mind sharing that, because that kind of ties into what Jeremy was just talking about.
I don't think anyone in the community sees a need for it. I mean, honestly, most of those people left with you, I think.
So I mean, I can actually answer as somebody who works on like things related to block size increases, which might be a surprise to some people. I think the view is basically that if we ever did want to entertain block size increase, there are a lot of like fundamental algorithmic improvements we need to work on first. And so I think that that's where there's like a little bit of tension that I personally see is like, there are things that I'm working on of making much better algorithms that are taking things that are, say, n log n and making them just like O of n. And I'm working on those, and I'm saying like, this is actually kind of important, you know, especially if we ever want to have greater transaction processing capacity. And other people kind of say like, well, we're never going to do that. So I don't see why it works because the algorithms are fast enough right now. So there's a little bit of tension of that, of like, people don't necessarily agree that like ever expanding capacity is important. But I still keep on plugging away on that because I view anything that is inefficient as basically being a bug for Bitcoin. Bitcoin needs to have like the, you know, for whatever task it's on, it needs to have like, you know, optimal, you know, resource usage.
Thanks for that, Jeremy.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification, Jeremy. I think we heard a little bit of the tension in the room right there between you and Jimmy on the points of view there, but very insightful. Thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that that's just, it's like, you know, and I would agree with no block size increase until like we feel comfortable that the algorithms are sufficiently like denial of service and like decentralization resistant, you know, for that. So that's why it's just not on the table right now.
But yeah, I don't think there's really any clamor for it in the community or anything like that. Yeah, so yeah, it's really kind of a non-issue in my mind. I don't think anyone's brought up any possibility of a hard fork in the near future. So,
well, Elon Musk just did last week.
Elon Musk, hard fork the fork picture, fork in the road. I just think it's interesting to say too that like it's not that like to say echo what Jeremy said. It's not that like the Bitcoin. Most of the Bitcoin community is just against the idea of hard forks. I mean, of a block size increase. It's just, it has to be done in consensus, and everybody feels like there's no consensus for a hard fork. So they don't want to take the risk of raising the block size limit or doing anything else. Not, you know, there's other improvements that we want to have in Bitcoin too that would require hard fork, and people are super against that too, just because whether it's PTSD or people believe to want to make BTC the most hard, you know, form of money ever and government resistant cryptocurrency, so that, you know, it can't be hard forked. But like even in Dan Held's, and you know, Dan Held's pretty well known as a Bitcoin maximalist, if you want to say that. And in his piece a year and a half, 2 years ago, when he was writing about how Bitcoin can scale with, you know, for billions of people, where the fees wouldn't be too bad, and where security would still be up to the level that it would be required to secure trillions and trillions of dollars of wealth on the Bitcoin chain without the block size reward, or sorry, without the block reward, to be just fees. He even had in there that like a moderate block size increase was part of that. So like Adam Back was for 2 megabyte, then 4 megabyte, then 8 megabyte. And then consensus sort of coalesced around not having a block size increase. So there's a lot of like Bitcoin Twitter people who are kind of like drink the Kool-Aid of the fork wars, and they are just like anti forks, anti block size increase just because of that idea, just because that's what No2X was about not increasing the block size. But like as a concept, it's not that like everybody's just totally against the idea of having a 2 megabyte block or something. It's just it's not in consensus, and it probably won't be for a very, very long time if it ever is.
And to build on that just a little bit, Brad, like I think the other relatively consensus view among core contributors to Bitcoin is that like SegWit was a block size increase. I know that's maybe controversial, but I think within core it's relatively uncontroversial that like the size of the amount of data that you store on disk for a given block can be up to 4 megabytes with constraints on like what type of data that might be. So I think that people also generally do feel like there is capacity available, more so than there was at the time of the block size debate.
I also think like stuff like Schnorr is it's at least all of the improvements that are going to be there are going to essentially shrink the transaction sizes, essentially lending more capacity. But I mean, I don't think the thing that the Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin fork showed me at least is that if you are going to sort of like unilaterally increase the block size, what you end up getting is you get the bigger block size, but you also lose decentralization. And I don't think that's a trade anybody in the Bitcoin community would make. Decentralization is the key aspect, and if it's centralized, it's not really like it's not that interesting. I think the market agrees with me.
So guys,
I have a question
just so we,
Lucas, can I ask?
Okay, Kim, I just wanted to get back to the topic of the room. If that's a question related to it, maybe you can. And we also have some people that joined the room, the stage, Serge, Roman, Adam, and Sin, that they didn't have the chance to ask their questions or add their contributions. But Kim, of course, you can ask your question if that related with our topic.
I'm not sure if it relates completely, but I'll just ask it anyway because I think it's important. And I would just like to hear your opinion on this topic. So, Michael Saylor is doing a lot of good PR work for Bitcoin, and he's recently saying in interviews that Bitcoin is basically a bank in cyberspace, and he's promoting that people should be putting their Bitcoin kind of in a savings account in that bank and not spend it, not use it for commerce. I would like to know what your opinion is on that view.
I don't think that's necessarily that related to this room. And there have been plenty of other rooms that have discussed this. So maybe we should stick to the topic at hand.
I guess all that I would say, just kind of bridging, a partial answer, is that like he is now putting, money behind an effort to like promote better security for Bitcoin. So he is not just sort of like parroting what he thinks Bitcoin should be. He is actually, and I think that this is something that we can all take as a lesson. He is actively investing, resources in seeing the things that he's claiming he wants Bitcoin to do to actually be true.
Yeah, and one other thing I would add is to make it more related to the topic of the room is, along with him, we have other people advocating for all other different views of Bitcoin doing their PRs. We have, for example, Ross Steven that Michael Saylor interviewed in his event, and he is in his interview he was advocating for a second phase of Bitcoin, more related to Bitcoin being used as a settlement layer for international payments, for example, and shouting out to Jack Mallers and Strike. And I think people can freely advocate for their own feature or I think on characteristic of Bitcoin they like more, and they can build that, they can develop that, they can contribute to that. So Lightning Labs is going to Lightning Labs and other companies building Lightning. They are advocating for other stuff, and they are building that. Zebedee, for example, is building a lot of stuff using sats in gaming. So you're free, the same way you're free to, as a developer, to contribute to Bitcoin, you're free as a PR guy or a marketing guy or an investor to contribute to other visions and make them a reality.
Yeah, and I would also too say, Kim, that I think that might be a bit of a misconception about like what he was saying. I don't think he was trying to say that like Bitcoin is only a bank in cyberspace and that's all you should use it for. He's just pointing out that Bitcoin, base layer Bitcoin, is the most secure, decentralized, censorship-resistant, government-resistant, sovereign bank in cyberspace. And that's why the rest of us that are super excited about being, you know, Bitcoin being peer-to-peer cash are building it out with Lightning Network and supporting Lightning Network apps and developers. And I'm super excited about what's going on with Lightning Network. And like Jeremy said, just the way that Bitcoin chose to scale was more like innovating at the confines of like the technology, like the edges of the technology, with getting better compression algorithms and stuff like that, so that we could keep the blocks small, so that the people that are in Africa and India and these countries in the next 10 years can run a full node and use it as their bank account on the blockchain if they want. But if they want to use it as their daily cash for transactions, they can use Lightning Network, and it's still using BTC, and it's affordable because it's fast and it's instant and it's free.
Okay, so let's go to Serge. Let's see if he has some question or something he want to contribute, and after him, Roman.
Oh, thank you, guys. Yeah, I feel a little bit nervous speaking next to such prominent people in the room, but especially when I probably have noob questions, but might be interesting to some listeners too in the room. So a couple quick questions, I guess, mostly for Jimmy, because he's preparing like a next generation of developers on Bitcoin, right? But maybe to others as well. So when they graduate from your course, what is the threshold of expertise when they should be able to contribute to the core software itself, right? Because I imagine that this code base is guarded more heavily than, I don't know, Linux code base core, right? And for a good reason when it's securing billions of dollars worth of value. But, you know, would they be able to do that, or would they be able to only work for their project and building on Bitcoin, something like that?
Well, depends. I have had people that went, you know, straight into core contribution. Like, if you're getting into core contribution, you don't start with like the consensus algorithm, right? You start with like unit tests or reviewing other people's stuff or documentation or something that is, you know, good for first-time contributors and so on. So generally, that's what they will get. They will start on if that's the path that they want to do. A lot of them, you know, start their own businesses or go work for, you know, different companies that are, you know, developing different things. You know, wallet companies or whatever. So it really depends on the developer's, you know, ambition and hopes and dreams, I guess. And you know, they are able to go and do it if they wanted to right afterwards. But, you know, I mean, it's a lot of information in 2 days. I mean, they are, like, I give them a lot to, you know, digest. So for most of them, it takes like, you know, some more digesting before they're comfortable with it. Maybe some personal project here or there before they get into it. Also, core is like, that's like one of the higher levels of you know, achievement. I think there's like lower hanging fruit that you can get into with open source projects. There's a lot of different Bitcoin based open source projects that you can contribute to that don't have necessarily that super high bar. So you know, I encourage them to go and, you know, contribute to, you know, Electrum or BTC Pay Server or whatever. And those are good, right? Like they, depending on the language that you're most comfortable with, it might make sense to do those first anyway.
So I actually kind of have a little bit of like contrary advice on that. Is that I really recommend just throwing people off the deep end and like, yeah, try and change something in consensus, try to rewrite something in the networking stack. And just be okay with throwing away all your code. Don't build any emotional attachment to it. Because I think that, you know, it's sort of like learning to ride a bike. Like, I don't know, like how much like training wheels helps or whatever. Like, I just want you to like try and ride the bike and fall. And maybe I'm going to be a, you know, bad father at some point, but that's sort of how I try and coach people, because I think that, you know, you want to just start doing the thing that you actually want to be doing as soon as possible. the downside of that is that has like a burden on other contributors who have like more to do than like babysitting somebody trying to like modify, consensus or something. But I do think that, out of the frying pan and into the fire is kind of like the best way to get people toughened up pretty quickly. So that's where I tend to try and push people that I'm working with is like, hey, try and work on, like a difficult problem and, build a little bit of that resolve. So yeah, I don't know. Cause at least for me, like I, never got turned on writing documentation. So like trying to get a new contributor to write documentation when like I'm already annoyed writing documentation, it's like, maybe it's not getting them enough of that, emotional hit for them to want to really plug in. That said, I'm actually going to hop off in a second. So, I know not everybody is a fan of, longer exits, but I did want to just, give a quick chance before I do leave to, encourage people, as a way of supporting me directly, non-financially would be to just like check out my work and familiarize yourself with it. I've got 2 websites in my bio, judica.org. I'm going to be releasing some software pretty soon. That's like a smart contracting layer for Bitcoin, that works on chain. And then utxos.org, which is about a soft fork that I'm proposing. I think Roger and Kim, you guys would probably be pretty interested in it because I do view it as a large capacity increase in terms of bandwidth for Bitcoin. And it's a technique that would work for Bitcoin Cash as well. Basically, sort of allowing you to queue up when transactions actually have to be executed inside of a block in order for all of the recipients of that transaction to have a full confirmation that their funds have been received. So I think it just serves like a nice congestion control technique that would be, even when you have large blocks, you might not want to pay the current prevailing fee rate, or you might be like literally like internet bandwidth constrained.
I love that, Jeremy, and I will have a look at it. Thank you.
Doesn't Bitcoin Cash already have pre-consensus already? Wouldn't that be kind of similar?
I'm not sure about.
There's some double spin proofs already as well, and then there's on the smart contract side, there's a whole new thing that was just announced by Matrix Port, which is a project of Jihan that's, I guess, supposed to replicate I know everybody loves Ethereum, that's a Bitcoin maximalist, but it replicates the entire Ethereum virtual machine as a side chain on Bitcoin Cash. And so they just announced that, 72 hours ago or something. So I need to do some more reading on that to wrap my head around all the details there.
And Jeremy, how do we support you financially? You said not financially, but how do we do it financially?
So right now I do GitHub sponsors. So that's like an easy way for anyone to get involved. And then, like I have a newsletter that you can do. If you don't like that, there's also a Bitcoin address listed on that profile. I can also send you a fresh one if you want to keep a little bit more privacy. And then otherwise, I have this company that I'm trying to build called Judica, where sort of I'm going to try and release as much open source tooling as possible that will go into the Bitcoin ecosystem for things that I ultimately want to build products using. And so I'm raising like a little bit of money to do that, and then hire out people. So that's also one way to be involved. But it's like kind of a riskier thing. I didn't really get to talk about this that much, but I do actually believe in the investment model for supporting core contributors into investing into a business. Whether or not the business makes sense, I think that the tools for accountability as a shareholder are a little bit stronger than to a nonprofit where it's sort of like a gift and then you can't really control what happens. And the sort of trade-off on investing versus gifting is that one day if the company or organization that gets built does turn a profit, well, like as an investor, you get rewarded for that. Whereas for the nonprofit, it's just sort of like, a little bit more abstract. So that's why I've done that model. I think right now people have been more enamored with the development funding through nonprofits, but maybe I'll prove out with Judica that investing in startups that like maybe don't have the clearest business model, but definitely have cool, like core contributions is going to be a good model going forward. So we'll see.
Can you tell us like what the valuation is, or do you want to do it in private?
We can do that in private. I'm doing safe notes, so no valuation, so far.
Awesome.
So Jeremy, I have, sorry, Brett. I have weekly meetups with developers, always in groups of 12 once a week about, brainstorming new applications to get more people to use crypto for payments, and also more vendors connected to accepting crypto for payments. And the way I do it is, I allow the room to just brainstorm and provide ideas for what could be done. And then at the end, after an hour, there's a team of 4 people that crystallizes out of that group, and they join forces together to then start on a new project that is funded by BCH Wales. So if any of you guys are interested in doing something on the side, this is an easy way how we can support you. You can keep doing your great Bitcoin work, but if you're looking for, alternative income potential, then this could be one way to do that. So I just wanted to put that out here for you guys, that you are aware of that. And by the way, I do love Bitcoin. I do support Bitcoin. I have no animosities against anyone in the Bitcoin camp, and I do promote peaceful being together, even if we are seen as competitors. I don't think it's necessary that we hate on each other, because eventually we have the same goal to disrupt the outdated, corrupt financial system, and we're doing that with a passion.
Guys, as Jeremy is leaving, I don't know, Marbrans, what you think, but I see we have more people on stage that didn't have the chance to ask their questions, but most of the speakers we invited to this room are not here anymore. I don't know if you and Brad and maybe some more people here can help in the discussion, but what do you think, guys? Should we close the room now? Should we keep it?
I'm currently doing something where I'm raising some money for Bitcoin core devs. I just wanted to share with you guys if you had a quick minute.
Well, let's keep it going for just a little bit longer. Let Jeremy go, and then maybe shut it down after a couple more questions.
I'll stay for Adam. He pinged me on Twitter, so I would not want to, leave.
All right.
Hey, appreciate it. So so I'm, I think there's some opportunity here. I'm currently listed on a website called Coinbeast Connect. Coinbeast is just it's like a educational publication online that focuses pretty much exclusively on Bitcoin. And there's like a bunch of wallet reviews and exchange reviews and blogs about doing things. So it's just a Bitcoin educational website. But they also have this Connect platform now where you can connect, you can schedule one-on-one consultations with, quote unquote, like consultants or professionals of a certain sect. And I'm a Bitcoin miner. I've been mining for a while. So I've done some consultations I did 3 last week with some guys that were looking at investing in mining or writing financial pieces about mining. And I'm donating the proceeds of that consultation to Bitcoin Core. I'm gonna sponsor somebody. So, but what I think is the opportunity is that there's a lot of guys in Bitcoin in like kind of the social aspect that are making a good bit of money. Typically, it's like the podcasters, the Pomps, the Stefan Leveras, those guys, and I think they have a pretty big fan base. And they also, it seems to me that they like connecting with people who are serious about learning about Bitcoin. And I think this is a way where they could potentially, donate a couple hours a month to connect with somebody one-on-one, and they could set their own price. And then, one of their fans or somebody really interested, if it's Matt Odell, somebody wants to learn how to run a node, they could schedule time and pay to connect with Matt Odell one-on-one. And then the proceeds of that could go to Bitcoin core development. And so it'd be a way for the money that kind of goes to the famous influencers, if you will, where new people to the space are, there's questions that they want answered that they can't Google, and they listen to these podcasts. They'd love to connect with these guys. And these guys don't, they're not going to come make a ton of money or anything by meeting one-on-one, but it'll be a way for them to raise money for Bitcoin core development, as well as, connect with somebody who's serious about learning something about Bitcoin. And that way they don't have to weed through the fanboys to the serious folks. So I don't know. I just thought that it's got some potential and maybe something worth talking about.
Hey, Adam. Marshall here, by the way. You hit on something that I was gonna bring up, actually. One thing that I would, my mind would love to sponsor is, not so much maybe consensus development, but more things tailored towards, and I don't have anything off the tip of my tongue, but more things tailored towards mining in general for Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, what have you. For large scale, hyperscale mines like ours, we have to roll our own software, and we're kind of just like left to the wolves, as it were.
I mean, to stick to the point, right? Like what I'm talking about is there could be various, obviously subjects of expertise, if you will. And like we already have that on Coinbase Connect, where we have like a lawyer, we got somebody that can talk to you about like web development and, any kind of software consulting. So we have like various kind of targeted areas of expertise. So, but we're brand new, so we're early. And again, I'm not like behind the project of Coinbase Connect. I'm not a founder of the project. I was just asked to be a consultant on there. And, but I see the potential of, having people have various kind of niches of expertise. And like I said, with Matt Odell, he could help somebody set up a Lightning node or just even run a full node. And he could do it, charge the person for the one-on-one consultant. And he doesn't have to feel bad like he's just trying to, leverage his fame to get wealthy, because he could donate those proceeds to Bitcoin core development. So it'd be a way for him to connect with Bitcoiners one-on-one, help them out for a good cause. And there are tons of people out there that are, that would spend $100 an hour or, $150 to connect with Matt Odell and have him teach them how to run a node. Like he's got some fans, and there's also just really interested people that are having a hard time Googling this information. So I just think it's kind of a potential 360-degree win in that regard, in the educational side, as well as helping to bring money into fund developers, because that's one of the issues is, that ongoing sustainable financial support.
All right, I'm going to drop off and have some dinner here. But thank you guys so much for the civil, interesting conversation this evening. I really appreciate everybody and anybody, whichever chain they're on, that's trying to build peer-to-peer cash for the world to empower individuals. So thank you guys all so much. This is my first time ever talking to anybody on ClubHouse too, by the way. So thank you guys. It was an honor to be a part of it with you guys.
Good to see you, Roger.
Hey, thanks, Roger.
Yeah, I'm also taking off. I promised my wife to go for a walk with her, and she's waiting the last half hour. I'm very happy that you guys have been kind to us and welcoming, and that is the spirit of ClubHouse. It's just a different game, and you can actually be social on social media and be real, and not just typing some words on Twitter. You guys have been very nice, and I appreciate that. And by the way, I'm not at all your enemy. I'm your friend. I always have been your friend, and I will always remain your friend. So just wanted to let you know.
Great. Thank you. That sounds like something an enemy would say, Kim.
Thank you, Kim.
Yeah, all right. Okay, bye-bye, guys. I love you.
Yeah, sorry to kill the mood, guys. Maybe get people to leave, but I just thought I'd throw that out there. See if you had any thoughts on that, Jeremy. And I talked to the
No, it's a really cool project.
Yeah, I talked to American Huddle about it, and he was like, "You need to talk to Jeremy Rubin." So I've been trying to find some time to connect with you. So I don't know. I just think that, I personally need to find a Bitcoin Core dev that I can sponsor. I'm looking actually for 2, and I'll split the proceeds. But I think there might be some more growth opportunity just beyond me. I'm not really a big voice, so.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think that it's, it's certainly just like a way to be involved. And it's also probably like, I really like the idea of people being able to get like badges or like, like some sort of certification that this is what they're doing, because people really do care about like ethical sourcing. And I think that that's something that, there's something to be said for trying to work with consultants who are plugged in and supportive of the environment that they're, consulting on. And I think that that's sort of like the, like fair trade consultancy. Like there might be some sort of way of labeling yourself with that. I'd encourage you maybe to talk with a Bitcoin person of OpenSats, because I think he's, trying to figure out ways that, people can be more directly involved.
Oh yeah, no, I was just up in the mountains with a Bitcoin person like 3 weeks ago. So yeah, no, I'll get in touch with them. That's great. Thanks.
All right, guys. Well, I guess we've had a good almost 3 hours with unexpected guests, to say the least. I think it was good, really good to have Roger and Kim around. Whatever we think of them, it was good to be able to discuss all these things. Thank you a lot to everyone who's attended. I think we're definitely going to have one of those again, because there's a number of people who wanted to come and just couldn't make it. People from Brink, for instance, couldn't do it. A number of other devs as well couldn't make it. And so we're definitely going to have something again.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys, the ones who couldn't ask their questions, but you can follow me and follow Marbrands, and especially follow Cafe Bitcoin through the greenhouse up there. And we're gonna do a room like that again, and you're gonna have the chance of asking your questions and contributing to the conversation. Thank you, Jeremy, for being here. Thank you, Brad, for helping us too. It was a really great conversation. I think we can build a really cool ecosystem of people helping, supporting the devs, not only devs, but any contribution to Bitcoin.
Yeah, great room, guys. Good combo. See you guys next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.